Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 19 of the Model Train Outsider. I am Anthony Dodge and I'm him too. So you finally admit it. I've never denied it. I merely say I'm younger, lighter, cuter, more artistic, and smarter than you. Hey, what do you mean smarter? Well, it's a scientific fact that the older you get, the more brain cells die. So I figure I'm easily a few 100,000 million ahead of you by now. Why, you insufferable... Can't think of anything to say now, can you? See? Told you. I'd have no trouble thinking of it. Oh, I think of a lot to say. I got a lot to say. Unfortunately, YouTube would flag us and we'd be off the air. Well, you do know they say profanity is the last resort of a lazy mind. You... Got him again. You... Hey, you kiss our wife with that mouth? Sorry. On tonight's show, what? Now you're not going to let me introduce the topic like I always do? I want to talk about... You can't ignore me. On tonight's show, I just really want to talk about ballasting a little bit. I've been doing a little. I'm serious. And I'll get you in your sleep tonight. I've gotten quite a bit done on one side of the layout, but there is actually a trick I'd like to share with some of you. If you've never done ballasting before, I'll show you how pretty much anybody does it. But there's a trick that I haven't seen many people out there doing, and so I thought I'd share that with you. So without any further ado, let me show you a little bit about ballasting. All right, so I don't usually do how-to videos because, well, 90% of you who would ever watch this video would do a better job than me. I am still relatively new to ballasting, although I approach it the way I approached my wargaming terrain when I would make rocky roads or dirt roads. I think the concepts are the same. But as I've watched dozens and dozens and dozens of how-to videos, there are very few people who do a trick I always do, which is most people lay their gravel and then they use the, don't mind the mason jar, this is Woodland Scenics ballasting glue, which is basically roughly 48% Elmer's glue, white glue, PVA glue, 48% water, and the other 4 to 5% dishwashing liquid or any sort of liquid soap. It can be hand soap. I mean, everybody mixes it. Sometimes I mix my own, but as I've gotten older and lazier, I just spend the extra money and buy it. But I keep it in a larger jar, and then I use these simple little eyedropper things here. Some people get the spray bottles. I don't like the spray bottles because even with a good direct spritz, you can get the glue over more than you want to. It floats, it gets on stuff. Obviously, if you do it and you're skilled at it, hey, you know, I'm not knocking the people with those skills. I just don't trust myself, okay? Leave it at that. But the one thing I do that I don't see many people doing, and I really think, hey, if you're not an old dog like me and wanting to learn a new trick, is, let's get this open, is I put some regular PVA glue on the base first before I lay the gravel. I just lay a little bit of PVA glue on the bottom. Now, if you have one of those automatic ballast spreaders, you may not want to do this because the ballast will scrape up through the glue. But if you're a manual ballast person like I've seen most people online. This is for Märklin C-Track. Really, this works with Märklin C-Track. I don't know that you could do this with regular track, but still a little bit of 1-inch tape over the rails just keeps the glue and the stuff from getting on it. But what I do here is, if you can see, is I make a little dome over the track. It protects the track, keeps everything off, and if any pellets fall on it, they fall straight down into the pit where you're trying to put it. But what I do is I will put that PVA glue, the regular PVA glue, I will put it straight down, and I do try to brush some of it up on the side of the C-Track. So especially if you're a Märklin user, this is not this is a good trick. I really think so. As much as I don't want to tell other people how to do things because, well, I am not a pro. There are tricks I've learned, not even in this, but from family and friends over the years on just different sorts of hobbies, activities, home repair, all sorts of little tricks. And what the PVA does is it gives a base that grabs the pellets right away, because this stuff starts setting up. I mean, it sets up within 30 minutes. So by the time I get this spread out and start laying, now I'm only doing a little section here, but by the time you start laying your gravel, it's tacky, but it helps lock your base down. But most people are going to say, yeah, so what? Well, here's where I want to share this little bit of information with anybody. I don't care who you are. If you want to take the time and do this, because this can be tedious. And considering I have arthritic fingers and an arthritic pair of shoulders, it's not fun to do this for long periods of time. But here's the trick. As this starts to set up, you put the gravel in. And once I've done spin this around with this old brush, I always like to dip the brush in a cup of water. I don't know if that's showing up on the camera here, but that's what I'm doing. I dip it in the water just to loosen up the glue. But yeah, back to my point, because I ramble, as you notice. When you put the gravel in, it helps lock it down. But more importantly, when you go to use your ballasting glue, this much looser glue, it does two things. It keeps it from seeping through and maybe seeping out under stuff. Now, if you don't care about that, you don't care about that. It actually creates a bit of a wall and keeps the liquid inside under the ballast. So you use less because it's not going to sink down and you're going to have to keep reapplying. The glue underneath is already basically, it's like a liner in a pool. It's going to help keep the glue in and keep it from spreading out under stuff. So you use less glue this way, although yeah, you're using more this way. But here is where I think I might sell some people on this. And trust me, I've done this for years and it does work. Results may vary. But when this stuff starts to dry, it acts as a catalyst for the glue that's in here. It actually causes your ballast glue to dry faster. Most people have to wait 12, 16 hours. I know people who say it might take 2 to 3 days for their ballast glue to set up, depending on humidity and temperature and everything else. When you use PVA on the bottom first, it actually encourages this to start drying faster. It really does. It's a catalyst. That goes back to my science days. But it is a catalyst. Now, I'm talking here, and so what I'm going to do is, just to make sure this stuff doesn't set up too quickly, I'm going to put a little bit more and spread it on, just so I definitely have this. Now, there's no way you're going to do this unless you try it for yourself, and 10 people might try this and come back in a week or a month or a year and say, hey man, you were wrong, it didn't work. All I know, it does work. I watched ballasting videos, and when I did my first ballasting attempts, instead of doing my old model world, I did what all you pros out there do. And then I said, this stuff takes forever to dry. Yet when I did this on my wargaming modules to build bedded roads and that, and I was in a hurry, because that's my problem. I'm impatient. I'm a perfectionist and I'm impatient, and it's not a good combination, and I wind up splitting the difference, which is never good. But this does speed up the process. So I'm going to put my ballast in. I am using Woodland Scenics Medium Gray Blend. Woodland Scenics Medium Gray Blend. That's what I'm using on this side of the layout. I'm going to do a different one on the other. Because in the Delmenhorst area, they have a very rocky, a very chalky white and gray rocky ballast. And they just ballast everything in between. It's sort of no man's land. It's not very pretty. It's not very scenic. It's just large swaths of rock. I probably should have printed up a Google Earth and let you see what I'm talking about. But I'm just going to sprinkle this in here. And yeah, I know some of you are going to say, hey, why didn't you paint those things first? You always want that ground cover. There's going to be such a thick layer here that I don't think I really needed to worry about painting those little slats I have. But I'm getting a thick layer on here. And in Germany, it is thick. I've looked at British ones and American ones, and I know they don't put as much on. But in Germany, the rails rise really high, and they tend to have a black rock base, like you see on the C-Track if you watch some of my other videos. And they really pile the rock up. So that's one of the things I'm learning. All right, now I'll do the other side. As you see, as I get some of the rock and get a little faster and sloppier, because I'm impatient. I watch some of you people out there, and you are so awesome with how meticulous and careful you do everything. And so I'm probably driving you crazy, but I'm not a perfectionist in that regard. I want things to look good, but at the same time, I want to be done. So I've already ballasted a lot of this area. So I'm trying to be careful and not overfill. And yet some of you will probably say, wow, man, that's overfull. But in Germany, it's really deep. The rails sit up much higher. And then they fill it with a lot more rock. Now what I do is I got a big kitchen spoon, and this is one of, quote, our good silverware we only use at the holidays, but it was close by. I've grabbed it. I've been using it. I clean it every day. The wife has seen. She hasn't complained, so it's all good. And I just kind of smear it in, try to create a level base, but it does by pushing it through the middle a bit. And to me, it doesn't have to be perfectly level. When I've looked at tracks the last couple of years, especially in 2017 when I went to Germany for the first time, since I got into the hobby and started looking at the ballasting, I definitely, as perfectionist as Germans are, I like to use the word persnickety, but hey, I don't know if that's an Americanism that very few people know anymore, or to me it sounds like it's a good old British term. But I just come through and push through the middle, letting it climb up the embankment sides. And then, like everybody does, you try to tap the rail, but like there I tap too hard and it goes out. But the thing is that base is below, and it's already starting to dry and solidify, and it's holding a lot of the rock below in place, and it's already sealing those rocks. Don't worry about the stuff that's on the tape or the glue that gets on the tape, because when you peel the tape up, you can adjust any little errors. Everybody does this as a different way, but and you're not going to see anything now. Now, if you're one of my non-trained friends who watches my video, some of my students, my family that aren't into model trains, I'll mention for you, you just keep squirting in until you see it milk up like you're filling a bowl of cereal. And you do it slowly, because if you squirt it out fast, you create jet holes. But I'm not going to show all this on video. You guys who do this know the trick. And the key here is what I'm trying to tell you about how much faster it dries. Now it is, it's 9:05 in the evening here, so I'm not going to stay up 6 hours to show you how it already hardened, but I will show you a couple of tricks. I've done a lot of ballasting today, but I'm going to show you some stuff I did about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So it's been about 7 hours, just 7 hours. So, whoops, sorry about that. Bear with me. So earlier today, I did this outer line, and there's tape here. There's tape here to keep the stuff from falling off the table and keep the water and everything in the ballast. And I just put tape along. Some people nail a board up. I keep the tape loose and pull back on it. But if you look at this, well, let's find my finger. Look at this. I'm rubbing this. This was 2 o'clock today. That was just over 7 hours ago, and that is not completely dry, but it's tacked. It is in. I would have to scrape pretty hard to get that out. I did all this. I actually did all the way this over here. I did a little bit of this. Hear that? I did that about 2 o'clock today. Listen to that. That's 7 hours. I did all along here about 3 o'clock, so this isn't quite as dry. So, you know, you're not getting the hard rock sound. But if you look at me spread my finger on that, that is already very tacky. And I did all this. I finished about 5 o'clock. I laid this in about 5 o'clock. So this isn't very tacky yet. Obviously, you can see the mess. I have to wait for it to dry to vacuum up. And I'll just vacuum all this up. So, you know, there's crap everywhere. So it looks messy right now, of course. But the key is, look at this. It is mostly dry already. Just 5, 6 hours. In another couple hours, that'll be hard enough to tap on like I did over there. 7 hours. I hear guys talking about 12, 18 hours. It's up to you. Yes, you're probably using a little more glue because of, well, laying what I do. So it's a trade-off. A little bit extra glue and extra time brushing it on versus how quickly you can get back at it because it dries that much faster. Waiting 24 hours, anywhere from 12 to 48. I've heard guys say it's taken them 3 days. I watched 2 videos where guys said it took almost a week because they were doing it out in a garage or a shed, or garage, as some people in the UK say. They were keeping it, you know, really almost sounding horrible how long it took. It was scary to hear how long they said it took. But again, no air conditioning, raining outside, it's cold, it's damp, the humidity is going to really slow down. And yes, I am in a climate-controlled basement. So that obviously affects. But even in climate control, most guys talk about 24 hours. I just showed you. 7 hours, rock hard. Again, your results may vary. This is a basement, not a loft, but 7 hours, it's already hard. It's not hardened completely, but it's enough where you could keep going. So you could really turn it around every 8 hours and keep going. Some, you know, now obviously with as much as I'm ballasting here, I'm just doing this little bit for this video, and I'm going to be calling it done. But that is, if there's one trick I wanted to share, and try it. If I prove wrong, I apologize, but it has worked for me. It has always worked for me. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say, trust me, but, you know, give it a small try on an area you're going to be ballasting. See if it does speed up for you. But again, the chemistry, the science is there. The full glue acts as a catalyst. The process has already started. The process of drying has already started with the main PVA, and that catalyst works into the stuff that you squirted over it, the ballast glue. So, hey, give it a try. If I'm wrong, you didn't lose anything except maybe the experimental time. But for me, it does work. So anyhow, on that note, I will bid you goodbye. I already posted kind of a layout update. We were celebrating the arrival of my Steuerwagen and running trains. Obviously, I'm ballasting, so I'm not running trains today. I might run some tomorrow and just not do any more ballasting, but I'll probably work a little more on ballasting. But that's one of my tricks. All So, that was a little trick I wanted to show you about ballasting. We've been progressing pretty far on the layout, and so if you are enjoying any of what I do here, whether it's the babbling or embarrassing myself or learning how not to do things, or maybe today learning how to do something new and different, just drop a comment, subscribe, spread the word, say, hey, look at this idiot. But anyhow, we'll see you hopefully next week. Bye. You can't ignore me. Don't say I didn't warn you.